Okay, I'm live with Assimilate Azure Cloud. Let's dive into talking about the Azure Cloud here. So I'm going to start off with screen share, get right into console. To start off with, you need an account. You can get a free one. That's one way to do it. And in this particular setup here, what do I got going? Well, I would say one of the first things to start off with Azure is to kick the tires on the Cloud Shell. And one of the ways you can do this is you could um, set up the initial storage account so that you can launch things and keep state. This is a little bit different than AWS in that the Cloud Shell for AWS doesn't have these restrictions. You can just start using the Cloud Shell. But for Azure, you do have to assign a storage account to be mounted against this. There we go. We're requesting the Cloud Shell. And what is kind of fun about this Cloud Shell is that it's a reasonable environment. Personally, I wonder why they don't give you like code spaces basically inside of Cloud Shell. I think that would be kind of cool, where you could have something almost identical or synchronize it. But here we go. Here's my account. And if I type in pwd, there's my home directory. If I do a df-h, you can see that it's actually a pretty decent availability here, like 24 gigs. So maybe that's why they make you pay for the or set up a storage account here. And then if we look at Python, it's actually running a pretty new version of Python. So if it was me, one of the things I would do probably would be to see if Python virtual environment works. If it does, looks like it does. So they're using the one that has VNV built in. Is I would just add this to my environment. I would basically vim my bash rc, and at the very bottom, I would put in sourcing my virtual environment. Say source virtual environment. So let's say source build a venv bin activate. So probably not a bad step to do that. And then if I source my bash, see here, we got a virtual environment. So that's one thing to do. And then I guess it's up to you to decide what are the things you want to install in here. Not horrible to kick the tires on some of the other things they've got. So let's see. We can switch between Bash and PowerShell. I like PowerShell. What else can we do? We can restart it. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's try out what happens when we restart. So let's see how long it takes to restart out of curiosity. I'm assuming it's a container, so it looks pretty quick. Yeah, so virtual machines are the ones that take minutes, but this is actually pretty quick. And look, it launched the virtual environment. And then if we look at help, we can look at the different help menus. Why not? Let's take a look at this. Overview of Azure, they're showing us the different things. So we can copy some of these things and play around with it. So we can see this AZ account show, get subscription. What else can we do here? We can select Bash or PowerShell. There is an editor here. And so it says Cloud Shell machines are temporary, but your files are persisted through a disk image and then a mounted volume called Cloud Drive. I didn't know that actually. Let's try this. So if we say DF again, we have something. Oh, Cloud Drive. Interesting. A mounted volume called Cloud. How do you get to that? That's weird. So I guess I could go to. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Oh, Cloud Drive. Huh. Interesting. So this must be a new thing they're doing. Let's read up on it. So integrated editor, a mounted. on first, it creates a resource. So Cloud Drive, we can read up more. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this must be a new thing. So Cloud shall persist files, and it says in the Cloud Drive command. Oh, wow. So there's something called Cloud Drive. Never heard of it, but it sounds interesting. We'll say Cloud Drive -H. What does this do? So mount the file share to Cloud Shell, unmount the file share, try to fix the image. Interesting. So you can say to discover which file share is mounted as Cloud Drive, run the df command. So in this particular scenario, you could actually go through here and I guess mount a new user image as well inside of here. So, very interesting. Transfer local files to your Cloud Share. So the Cloud Drive directory syncs with Azure Portal Storage Blade. This blade lets you transfer things from your file share. Yeah, very interesting. This must be a new feature. I'll have to take a look at that at some point. That I like that. So what I could do as well is I could also do this. I could say SSH keygen, SSH keygen, SSH keygen. There you go, SSH keygen -T RSA. There we go. And if we cat this here, we can throw this into GitHub. And also could start to take some notes and keep track of them. So what I could do is go to GitHub here. We could create a repo called Assimilate Azure. That's repo for learning Azure. Go to public. We'll do this. And there you go. All right. So then, now that I got this repo, I can go to settings, add my SSH keys here. Azure Cloud Shell. And ask authenticate. I'll do that real quick. Okay. And then what I can do is go back and clone this repo into Azure. That way I can keep notes. There we go. So we'll go here. So how would we clone this? We can just go here, go to SSH, copy this, and do a git clone. There you go. So now I can actually just keep some notes in here. Just go to README, say like, I don't know, to do things. 71. But check out, explore more would be Cloud Drive. Cloud Drive. And I think there were some notes about this here. Right, so I could put notes here. So, this is a little clumsy for doing like editing. And so what we could do is we could use the editor, which I think is this icon. Yeah, open editor. And now we can see, in fact, that I have like a more realistic editor here for Azure. And so if I want to take a look at the Cloud Drive, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I guess the Cloud Drive stores your bash RC, which is pretty cool. And Python history, vim info, ZSH RC. Yeah, very interesting stuff here. And then if we want to edit this README, there we go. We got a pretty decent editor here, right? A little cleaner to fix things. And I think, does it have a preview? No, it doesn't have a preview. So not sure why they don't make this editor better. If I was going to give Microsoft advice, I'd say copy what GitHub is doing. But this is cool. So I could actually go in here and let's just make a hello world Python script. And if I just said touch hello.py, we should. Oh, it's so weird. It's not real time. I don't get it, but I don't get why they're making a bad editor here. Hello world. Seems like they're some of the best people in the world at making editors. I don't know why they're screwing this up. Why make a janky Visual Studio Code editor? But anyway, if you want to get to it, you can. So that's Cloud Shell. What else can we take a look at that's worth playing around with? So you can also just search in here for different resources. One of the ones that's kind of fun to play around with is Databricks. Another one that's kind of fun to play around with is Azure ML Studio. Azure ML Studio here. And we can search for this ML. There we go, Azure ML Studio. And so if we wanted to create a new workspace for this here, we could look at our subscription, use some storage here. We can call this Azure ML. And then container registry, we can say create a new one. We can say containers 11 2. There we go. I think I've got all these filled out. Review and create. Okay. There we go. So we got a machine learning, Azure machine learning service that I could play around with. I think it'll take a few minutes to spin all this stuff up. I don't think it'll take that long. So that's one thing we could play around with. We also could play around with Data Explorer, create a cluster. I don't want to create any clusters, so I won't do that. There also is serverless. So we could just look through here and we could look for serverless. Let's see here. Functions. Azure Functions are the ones that are fun to play around with. There you go, Function app right there, Function app. So if we look at the docs here, Azure Function documentation, these are a service that's on demand, getting started. Let's look at Python. How do you create it? Let's do it in the terminal here. Let's do V2 is in preview. So let's try it out. Let's try this out. Let's go to Py. Interesting. So we already did that earlier. We already did that. We activated it. And so create a local function project. Okay, let's try it out. So we'll just toggle back and forth here. So we can go back to the terminal here. And let's open up the editor. So we have at least a janky editor, but something if we need it. I actually don't know if we will need it, but maybe. There we go. Func init local function. So that appears to work. It is weird though. What is func? Func. Oh, interesting. I guess it's like like the tool that you use. Oh, Azure Function Core Tools. Oh, yeah, pretty interesting. So then if I do the documentation here, we can CD to it. So we'll go next. If we look inside of here, you can see all the different things. We have In fact, I mean, I guess I should have copied this into the Azure code. Let's do that. Let's mv local to our source code, and then let's go into there to local function project. Okay, and then let's follow the steps, which is we're in there, and then we're going to put some code inside. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we probably do want. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I like this. So let's go to here. Let's refresh it. Let's go to this, and what do they call it? They called it function underscore app.py. So we'll say touch function underscore app.py. Here we go. Refresh this thing, and let's run it, and we'll save it. And then once we do that, we don't care about that. Well, before running the you have to do Azure write storage emulator. Okay, let's copy that. So that didn't work. Start your function by so let's do func start. Func start. Interesting. So it looks like it's working. No job functions found. Try making it host lock lease acquired. Don't know what's doing. Oh, you should see something like that. Func start. So run your function by starting the Azure Functions runtime from local prod folder. Towards the end of the output, you should get a URL here. So I don't get that yet. So I don't know if it didn't work or what. So to support 7.0. Let's restart this thing. So in theory, let's create a support resource for your function. But I guess this is the main part, is you're supposed to say function start. So it looks interesting, even if I don't get this to run. I mean, this is preview, so who knows? Maybe there's an issue with it in preview mode, but it looks interesting. Conceptually, it looks interesting. I guess if I tried it again, I went into here, project, could go func start again. Maybe it'll work this time. No job function found. So yeah, maybe there's a problem with this thing. But good thing to play around with next time. What I'll do is go here. I'm going to say get add this in, adding Azure function, and then we'll auto detect. So I got to do configure get. Let's do that. And do this. And say get pull, get push, status, get add here, get commit, initial code. So worth playing around with. Maybe I can play around with Azure a little bit as well with with GitHub code spaces. But yeah, not a bad first start to playing around with Azure here, and I'll do more in a couple weeks.